The main thing I wanted to say about Honeytree is she's one of those ones, again, like we've kind of talked about in the past, that just got into the Lord shortly after college, the way I understand it. And that was around the same time as the Jesus music movement that kind of started around the early 70s. And this song here actually came out in 75, just a couple of years or so after that. But she was certainly singing and playing some music shortly before that, at least 2 or 3 years. So she kind of is right up there in the start of things. And a lot of people consider her a Christian music pioneer as far as Jesus music is concerned, the way it was known by that term at that point. And she was actually one of those ones that I actually was first introduced to when I became a Christian around 1979. The year after, and I think it was 1980 or so, I had seen her in concert in actually Dixon, Illinois. And she was there, I think, as part of their Petunia Festival, which I believe they still hold every year in that area of Dixon. Dixon, as you might know, is the boyhood home of Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Yep. And that's located in northern Illinois, close to where I went to high school in Princeton, Illinois. And went up there to see her in person, in concert. And I'm trying to remember who else was there. I want to say Josh McDowell spoke that weekend. You may have heard of him. And also Dave Boyer was also part of that weekend. Some might know him as kind of the Christian version of Frank Sinatra, if you want to put it that way. That kind of smooth, I guess, vocals and that sort of thing. So that was quite a weekend. It was really good to see them in person, and kind of stuck with me ever since that I really enjoyed her music. And I think Dave Whitaker and I had talked about this a little bit too, that a lot of music toward that early period of Christian music was... I don't know if I want to say more thought-provoking, but it seems like it was more simple and more maybe more even maybe scriptural based, perhaps, because it was just talking about the stories of lives transformed by Christ, and maybe in a different way than maybe some of the music we hear nowadays in 2017.
No, I'll agree with you on that one 100%. I'm standing up and I'm saluting you on that. You know, it's interesting that between you and David, I'm remembering so many things that I've forgotten. Groups like Honeytree or Stephen Annie Chapman, and just the Neon, we spoke about today, people like that. They are truly pioneering groups of what we consider contemporary Christian music.
Right.
Why did you choose Honeytree?
Well, I choose Honeytree because, like I said, she was one of those ones that I kind of first kind of grabbed onto as one of my favorites when I was growing up and just getting my feet wet in the Christian faith. Like I said, I became a Christian around 1979, and this would have been around, I think, the summer of 1980. And just getting to realize there was actually some music in there that was kind of fun and just something more than hymns. At this point in my life, I certainly get to appreciate all styles of music, as you and I have talked about before, that there's so much out there now for Christian music than there was back then. But back in the day, toward 1980, and when this came out in 1975, there wasn't a whole lot going on Christian-wise. There wasn't these multi-genres of Christian music as there was. So this is kind of where it all started, toward the Jesus music movement in the early 70s, and people just getting turned on for the Lord, as they would probably say back then, and just using their talents for God. It wasn't necessarily trying to be like somebody else, but you have to try to start to use your talents through something you already know. So if it's a rock beat or something, you put Christian words to that, or that kind of style, I guess you would say. That's where you kind of start off from, and she was one of those ones that came into that just at the right time, and she's actually one of the Christian music pioneers that is still touring, as far as I know. Maybe not as heavy a tour schedule these days, but she does still tour from time to time, and I believe she still lives in her home state there of Indiana, and has since gotten married, and I think they've got a kid or something now, I think I've read too, but she still keeps busy on the road and still loves to sing for Jesus.
Fantastic. Well, what song are we going to play today?
This one is a fun one. I kind of picked this one on purpose because it's kind of fun. It's called Rattle Me, Shake Me, and just kind of talks about the change that Christ made in her life when she was a young person, and it's kind of a quirky little song. There was a live version of it too, but I think I like the studio one a little better, and that's where this one is from, 1975. I believe this was her third album called Evergreen that this came off of, and I hope people might enjoy this blast from the past from Nancy Honeytree.
1975, 40. It's hard to count. Well, Steve, the librarian at Ericson, thank you so much for being with me today. And you'll be here next Sunday, right?
Always my pleasure. Yes, Doug.
You hear the way I said that? I didn't give you a choice.
I know, I heard that.
All right, Steve, I'll talk to you later on, man.
Sounds good, sir.
And God bless you.
You too.